Go.
Okay. It is just about 7 o'clock on Tuesday, January 21st. This is a regular meeting, postponed as it were, of the Finance Committee. Roll call. We have a quorum. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 members here. Paula and Tony will be absent tonight. Paula's not well, Tony's out of town. Okay, adoption of the agenda. Is there anybody? Oh, and I just want to say that Rick is going to be sitting in to talk because we have 2 people absent, but he's not a member of the committee, so he will not be voting on anything. Okay. Adoption of the agenda. Is there anything anybody would like to change, add, subtract, move sideways?
I move we approve the
Okay.
resources.
Okay. 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 Hearing no objection, we will approve the agenda. And the first thing on here is the approval of the minutes from October 16th. For those of you who were here, have you looked over the minutes and we have a motion to approve?
I move we approve the minutes as submitted.
Your second? All those in favor? Okay, the minutes from October the 16th will be approved. All right, starting in now on to.
Here's the question.
Question?
I sent you a note that when we were working on the revitalization plan, we had talked to the county, about extending that area if something happened to the ice farm. You know, if anything found out, and that was in your.
Oh, that was in the minutes?
In the minutes of that meeting.
I don't know anything at this point about,
There's
oh, no, that's a whole side discussion on, there is a difference of opinion on the barn next door having been torn down, how long we have according to the county to rebuild, if we can take the slab up, et cetera, and ask for a report on that in the next finance committee.
I will have a report.
Okay.
I'm really,
Yeah.
okay,
Okay.
sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Okay, capital request, first one we have, Maddie, you're up on the security cameras.
I'm Maddie, the recreation manager. I'm here with Ron Smith, our security manager, and we're going to talk about some cameras for this building, the community center. So back when the recreation department was first started, 2018, June, the previous GM told maintenance to go out and just buy some cameras for this building. So they went to Costco, got like a $200 deal and threw them up. They're Wi-Fi enabled. Wi-Fi isn't great in this building, so we've always kind of had issues with connectivity and that kind of thing. The maintenance employee who installed them is no longer here. So we had an issue back when we started having power outages in the fall, reconnecting to that system. Usually, like, we have it up on our computer, but security was only ever able to look at the cameras on their phones. I don't think they're ever able to get it up on their computers, which is frustrating because we have a completely different security camera system through Security Solutions that we use for every single other facility. So that is kind of where this came from, is that power outage that messed with our electronic systems here, and I don't think security's ever been able to get back into the system. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. So, and that's a big deal for rec. We don't have staff here all of the time monitoring. We're open 7 days a week, 5 a.m. to 9 p.m., Monday through Friday, 7 to 7 on weekends. And we've had some significant safety concerns here before. Most recently, one of our emergency exits upstairs got bungee corded together. It was with a bungee cord in the color that we do not purchase. So it's pretty scary that someone came, brought their own bungee cords and did that. We've had a few other instances similar to that, people kind of hiding in the dance barn when it's dark, or we'll come back and the furniture's all rearranged and mixed up in the lobby, and we just have so many people coming through this building now. We track through the fitness center door because everybody has to card in, which is great, and it has their name on there. We have about, I would say, 450 different people each week who use just the gym. People don't card in to come to classes or board meetings or events or anything like that. So we have even more than that coming on a weekly basis. So really this is a request to get security solutions cameras for these buildings. They're higher quality. They have more range, so you can actually see further, and it's just to replace the ones that we have. The bids are, the request is on the second page. It's number 7 in the packet. I actually realized we got a quote for these earlier in the year, then didn't request the money, so this number is actually wrong. It's $5,573.04 instead of the one in the report that says $5,532.83. So
It's 5573.
04. Yeah. So with these new security solutions cameras, it's going to be on the exact same system as we have now for all our other facilities. Security will be able to look at it and actually monitor, so they don't have to come down here necessarily every single time we have an issue. And we'll be able to have recordings and it's backed up on their system, and that's not really happening yet. So that's the crux of it. Do you have anything to add, Norm?
Just a couple of items. The current system that was purchased ad hoc is also very susceptible to being hacked.
Yeah.
Our IT administrator, John Core, actually did some research on it and found that they have a very bad rating, or very bad rating for that, and it can be accessed, and so that's a concern. You don't want to let anybody into your network. The other thing with security, with the managed camera system, and this is a managed camera system for security solutions, it's also on a thing called video health. So what that means is not only we're looking at it, but the server downtown, which is off-site here, is also monitoring it. So if there's any issue that occurs, like a drop-off line, or there's a fault that happens, they will get an alert on it, and then they usually let me know that we have a problem. With that also, we have the ability to have 60 days of archivable footage that is beneficial for all the issues that Maddie has outlined, not to mention there's a life safety aspect with this. The building does from time to time have issues with intrusion of water. As we know, we have seen that. We also have electrical issues that does occur. The current camera system is not backed up in any manner, so it just goes down. By replacing them with this managed system that goes on the security network, you get battery backup on those systems for about 2 hours or so that will allow us to try to get power restored to the facility and then be able to continue to have monitoring. So that's the advantages of having a managed system. You're not trying to also manage 2 different systems. One that we have nobody we can call because it's just what it is. It's purchased over the counter. Or if I can't solve it, then I can bring in a technician to help get it back online. So that's kind of the process with it. Under the service agreements that we would have currently, and that spend is already in our budget, so it has advantages that we do not have currently. So that's kind of what I wanted to make sure the committee was fully aware of.
Would anybody like to make a motion to start the discussion?
I'll make that we request $5,573.04, including tax, allocated from the SURF account for purchase of camera security system for community center.
Your second? Second. Okay. Okay, questions, Carol?
I have several. We don't have 3 bids. And this is because Security Solutions is already, they're the ones who actually installed the system that we currently have, and they're the best ones. Is there any way of knowing whether that's, I mean, can we guess that that's the best deal that we could possibly get?
They're our current integrator for all of our security camera systems. So this, if you go out and bring in a third party such as the Gateway Controls, yes, they can submit a bid, but now we're looking at, again, a mismatched system,
Right.
not covered under the service agreements. The key aspect are the service agreements, because now we have these things being managed and being looked at, and those that were here pre the cameras that are installed understand we had a lot of issues with security cameras, because there were no service agreements. And this falls right into the system, and it is a system.
Okay, and they're our service providers, so
Yes.
we're already on contract with them to continue monitoring everything else. And this is, I saw an additional $8 a month to add these cameras, is that correct? For just
That's
your-
correct. It goes into the video health management program that we have currently, that we contract with them annually.
Okay, on the second page, you have a quote at the end of the sentence. At the top of the page, it says, "I believe there is a strong case here," quote. Who's that attributed, the quote? I didn't see the beginning of the quote, and I didn't know who it was attributed to.
That is from John, is it Care?
Okay.
He is our IT professional of
So
our
is that whole
administration.
bottom paragraph and to the next page all attributed to him?
First quote, please.
Oh, I see, so we just didn't continue the quotes. Okay, I just want to make sure, so he's the one who provided that information.
That's
I
right.
didn't bother to go to these websites, I figured it was what we were talking about hacking.
It's just
Who knows?
references in case someone
Yeah,
wanted to double
yeah.
check.
You mentioned that there were 450 people visiting the center, right, or the health,
Just the fitness
the
center.
fitness center. Is that per month, per week?
That's per week, I'm sorry.
Okay, so per week, and what's the 475 visits?
7:30.
745, I mean,
That's
in here.
total. We have people who come back every day to use the gym. Some people just use the gym once a week, you know. So there's a difference between the total number of hits on that door, because that accounts for like when staff goes in.
So it's
or-
450 different people.
That's right.
but 745
Total.
total visits.
Yeah.
Those are
Some
the-
of those
Those are
duplicates.
what's called distinct counts,
Got it,
so.
got it, okay. All right, and that was per week, okay, that was
Yes.
the question I had. And the person installing it is Security Solutions, correct?
Correct.
All righty. And that's per month, okay. If the dance barn, something happens to it, let's say we either decide to abandon it, because we've got a lot of discussion going on in the community, or if it gets replaced, can the system be repurposed, reused?
The
Is
answer
this-
to that is yes.
Okay, so
No.
we're not throwing away,
No,
putting
it's
this
not,
money into
this is
something
not
that could be
disposable.
temporary.
The video servers and the switches and those kind of things that, they're the brains and the heart of the system, those can be unbuttoned or taken out, powered down and repurposed to another facility, should that become a.
Okay, is it like a controller system and then also additional cameras, is that the idea?
Well, the way the system is put together is you have your cameras, which are your sensors, for lack of a better term. They feed into a digital video recorder through the network switches, which is basically a mini server. It actually lives in that, if you ever wondered what's in the little door across from the treadmill,
Mm.
that's where that system lives, with
Mhm.
battery backup. So all of that has been put in there with L-straight and belted in, and it can be moved if the decision is made to abandon in place or.
Okay,
on
so it's
it.
just, it's not a lost thing if something happens to this building?
No, it's not one of these things you're gonna throw away. You're gonna go ahead and repurpose it, and there'll be cost incurred with any move, but it'll be less on the equipment side. It'll still be a part of the system that can be migrated.
And then, last question, there was I noticed no contingency in here. We don't anticipate any additional cost of any kind, it's just install it.
It's a
now.
straight install.
Okay, but there was a comment about possible additional permitting. Is
That's
that even an
electrical.
option?
That's an electrical side deal. I mean, anytime you're dealing with electrical current, this is all low voltage stuff, you have to factor in that you may have to grab an additional permit. It's not anticipated, but it is from the integrator that they wanted to make it clear that if they had to go out and get a permit, that might be involved in it. But typically, if it's low voltage, it's not anything that's gonna go beyond their capability to do. It just comes in.
And it's not gonna be an expensive permit
No,
job?
not for an electrical permit, no. Like I said, in construction, I've probably dealt with that more than a few times, you know, they're not very expensive.
That's all I have.
Anybody else? Karen? I think he was.
Couple questions, Norm.
Yeah.
Your memory may be better than mine, but remember when we cut back security a few years ago and we didn't have the security cameras and stuff? We
Oh, you mean,
embarked on this and we started to get some some cameras so we could see them on the screens and on phones and stuff.
Yeah,
Is this the,
this is the same system, yes.
right, so is this the end of it, or do we have more of these that I can expect in the future?
There is actually, we scoped out a phase 2 and phase 3 years ago to do this, to encompass part of the association where we have no camera coverage. For example, the administration parking lots, that's an example of an area that's a dead spot, this parking lot. But that proposal has not been presented and will have to be looked at. Again, Joe and I have some discussions to go forward with about fit for purpose, and if that's the direction that he wants to see us go. But
So we don't have other ones right now, but
No.
we need to revisit that plan.
correct. And that plan also includes a phase 3 on that one that would encompass the entrances to the gates, because that has been a question that has come up during the recent snow event, because there has been vehicles that have been damaged by rocks thrown and stuff like that. And of course, anything that occurs at our mailboxes. So that's in there, and the reason that hasn't gone forward with is when that was developed, we didn't have as much things like Pogo Zone internet available. Everything would have to be on cellular, and that gets expensive. So that's waiting to be looked at and revisited depending on what's fit for purpose.
Okay. And I have one other question. When we went to Security Solutions, when we first put them in place and did the security system, did we get unit pricing for additionals, like that might fall into this category or these other categories that you're talking about, that
Not
for
at that,
adders at the time, or? do we
not
have
at that
anything in place?
time, no.
Do we have to go each individual time and get new pricing for everything?
Currently, yes, we do, because the initial install was done based on fixed price for the amount of money that was allotted to replace in kind what the association had purchased through various third-party elements that was non-functional. So at this point, if we have to, camera systems, like any managed system, they have a shelf life you have to start looking at for repurposing, revitalization, and upgrade. We're getting to that point now, and those are negotiations that we would have to have with Security Solutions as far as expansion and bringing things up to current specs. So.
Okay, now, one thing I suggest is if we go back and we review those plans and come up with any other potential phases of this thing, we might talk to them about a unit price.
Yeah, we can.
But
If we're gonna expand the pie in the sky more or less, we will sit down with them and say, hey, we're looking at like 25 more cameras,
yeah,
bulk pricing.
okay, thanks.
I think I understand this, but I just want to make sure that we are talking about putting cameras throughout this building. It wouldn't just be focused on the gym.
No.
Oh, okay.
You currently have the in-house system, which covers aspects of this building, like the front entryway,
Oh,
the
okay.
gym, and up in the dance barn area. So we would be replacing those in kind. The difference is being they're on the same network we have currently, and being little different optics on some of those. For example, the one in the gym currently is called a bullet camera, and only looks at a small portion of that. Well, we're looking at replacing that with more of a panoramic view, so recreation can actually look and see if they have a person that has injured themselves on the treadmill now, an area that she cannot see right now. And if you're one person in there, then it could be a while till you're notified.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's replacing the 4 that are in here right now.
Okay. And then, kind of, do people key into the front when they come in, when there's no staff here, or only to come into the gym? I've seen a little thing, but I don't know.
Yeah,
if
they
people-
key in between 5 and 6 a.m. only
Okay.
at the front door.
Okay.
Otherwise, the building just opens for the day at 6 on weekdays and 7 on weekends. Yeah.
Okay. And then my last question was about in here, the last full paragraph, we talked about the 2019 Community Center Emergency Fund. If I recall, was that $50,000 that was in capital?
That's
Do you know how much of that had been spent?
I don't know if Joel has that number in
Okay.
front of him or not. I know We had to buy some heaters for the main pool last year. That was around, we got 2 heaters. They were around $8,000 and something for both of them. Capital, emergency funds, barn 8.
We allocated some funds for emergency repairs for this building, and we
Mhm.
haven't spent all. But is that the category that this would come out of, or is it from 2020? I don't know.
I mean, we think that it could qualify as an emergency. It's one of those things, something could happen at any time. So we think it applies.
This request is from SURF though.
Yes.
Right,
Yeah.
okay. Any other questions?
I can tell you the replacement of the furnace in here was $6,500.
Oh, yeah.
And the pool heaters were
8 and something,
about 9 or 10 grand.
yeah.
Okay, and we had 50,000.
50 set aside, yes.
So you're, okay.
Yeah.
Call the question?
All right, all those in favor of this motion? It is unanimous, thank you. Approved. Okay, next we have the request for pump house equipment replacement, Maddie?
That's also me. Yeah, so this is addressing the quiet pool mechanical system. That is the one over by the library. So it was approved last year by the board to repair the retaining wall that goes along the quiet pool and repair the pump house building itself. And during that proposal, it really should have included the mechanical aspects that are inside the pump house. That was accidentally omitted. So now we're asking for funds to replace the mechanical aspects of the quiet pool, the things that actually make the quiet pool work. Those were due to be replaced in 2019 in the reserve study, so they're due. Let's see here. There's also a few other issues with that building. Something that's not in the reserve study, because it doesn't really qualify, is the drain pipe that leads from the pool. So that drain pipe actually goes from the pool, goes through the building, and then it goes underneath the shed. And when we have to drain the pool every once in a while because we have to keep water in it, because we have a very high water table here. So if we did not keep water in the pools, these structures would literally boat out of the ground, like the pool itself. So we have to keep water in the pools as weight. So every once in a while we have to, I'd say every 2 weeks, we have to drain it just a little bit so the water doesn't overflow. And when we drain it, we find that the water seeps into the pump room from underground. So we're including in this request to abandon that and replumb it through the building, so that that's no longer an issue and that flooding is not occurring. We have our quote. Let's see here. It's attachment A. It's from PNW Services, but really it's to replace 3 major components. It's the filter, the pump, and the heater. These are all residential quality products. We've had them, let's see, a few.
The replacement is going to be commercial grade, correct?
That is right, yeah, they are gonna be commercial grade, and,
So this quote is residential?
No. You have residential in there now.
yeah. And we've been using them in a commercial capacity, which puts even extra strain on these components. So yeah, we're gonna be replacing them with commercial quality products. We included the, like, kind of spec sheets for them and further on in the attachments. But one of the things we wanted to point out is the pump system, which is a significant issue because we are required to have the water in the pool circulate a certain number of times for health standards, to circulate through the sand filter, to filter out all those debris and the bacteria and that kind of thing. So it needs to filter once, the whole pool, every 6 hours, which comes down to, like, let's see here, I wrote it down. 3.33 gallons per minute. And the maximum flow we can get right now is 45 gallons per minute, which means we're not meeting that standard. And the health departments have already told us they're going to be checking every single pool in Whatcom County this year for that standard. So they've already warned 2 pools in the county they're not going to be able to open this year if they don't get that flow rate up. And we're next on the list for them to inspect. So that's something that I think we absolutely have to replace if we want to open the pools next year. I talked to our pool technician again and really kind of grilled him. I'm like, well, can we, like, how many years can we get out of this stuff? And he's like, well, I've been repairing it for the past several years, and it was due to be replaced last year. And maybe we can get another year out of it, but do you really want to run the risk of having a cold pool in the middle of July and having your members upset about that? So that's why we're asking for these things to be replaced. And let's see here. I have warranty info if you guys would like it. But the request is, we only got 1 bid, and that's because there's only one, I should have said this in the thing, full service provider really in the Pacific Northwest. They're called Sesco. They sell products, they install them, and they do pool maintenance. So they do the whole thing. Libra Pools is the one who redid our pool out here, both of the pools, and we were not happy with their craftsmanship. We've had issues with the tiles. They've had to replace the tiles 5 times now, and they finally admitted earlier on that, oh yeah, we did use the wrong mortar, and that was after the last time this happened. You know, I was in charge of the punch list after the last GM left to get them to do this stuff, and it just took them forever, and they were non-responsive, and I really don't trust them to do this work. So that's why I didn't get a bid from them. And the other one is Burlington Hot Springs. They really do more like spas and like hot tubs. But they do sell filters and pumps and that kind of thing. And we didn't get a quote from them because then we'd have to hire a contractor to install all this stuff. We were really wanting to try and do the most efficient option and get it from the only full service provider out here. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you guys have about the products or how we came to this.
Okay, would anybody like to make a motion so that we can start discussion on this?
I'll make a motion that we recommend to the board to approve a request of $19,362.11, including tax and contingency, allocated from the SURF account for replacement of quiet pool equipment.
Okay. Question? Comment?
Okay.
No, go ahead.
I have a question to go to the committee. This pool was done, help me out, Maddie.
2018.
2018.
Yeah, right before I started.
Don't ask that question.
Okay.
I wanna know why. Why?
I want to know why.
I wanna ask you why.
I wasn't here, so
Yeah, I
this is
know.
why I'm coming to people who have been here before I was. Why was this not?
I have no idea.
That's.
I know, I understand why the pump equipment wasn't done here, because we had previously done an entire project on the pump house for the main pool.
I think that was
Why
like
this-
2015, and then the heaters got forgotten, and that's why we had to ask for them last
Exactly, we had to
year.
ask for the heaters.
So this one should be good for a while.
Why this was not done
Okay.
blows me away. The only thing I know that we held off on for the quiet pool deliberately was the retaining wall.
Right.
Because it came to our attention halfway through the project and they wanted another $44,000, and I said, no way, not last minute. Why this wasn't included, you have the contract, does it say anything about it? Well, that was gonna be a question I had, is why wasn't it done when the pool was fixed? I mean, who would have thought you'd replace the pool without the pump equipment being replaced?
I guess my question along the same lines is, so this is in the reserve study and just this individual mechanical?
Yeah, it
Stuff.
calls out specifically the filter, heater, and
To
pump.
see what was in the reserve
It was
study.
due for 2019 for replacement.
What about all the stuff we just did?
Yeah,
Yeah.
That was 2019.
It should have been
Yeah.
all in,
I would think,
you would have been.
when you do a reserve study, you put all of it together, I guess is the question.
Yeah, yeah, it should have been all done at the same time.
Or you shouldn't, quiet pool was probably listed to be done 10 years earlier, so maybe this equipment had a longer useful life. when they
Because
were out of
the
sync.
pool stuff and the equipment stuff aren't necessarily in
They
the
don't
same
work
life
in
cycle.
that, right.
So
No.
we're speculating.
But you look at the
You
It
don't
reserve.
know
just
the
makes,
answer.
when you have a contractor out here doing that amount of work, it just,
On 2 pools.
on two pools, it just blows
The
your mind.
contractor did all of this equipment on the other pool besides the heater?
No, no.
No, that's the
They
point.
just, they did the plastering, you know, replastering the insides of the pool.
So we're asking
did some
why the
tiling.
plastering company didn't know.
Well,
they
they-
didn't
No,
do
no,
Labor
no,
was-
there was a.
They do
there was
more
this
than
general
that.
contractor
General
that did
contractor
the
for
whole
pools.
project.
And
Yeah.
it was not part of the scope of work, which I find odd that even when we came to the finance committee for a heater as well last summer.
We live in Western Washington, we don't know a lot about pools.
Yeah,
And I'm
that's
okay.
true. Well, I'll tell you, the finance committee, you know, I guess we aren't experts, and so.
I know about coffee. I can ask you questions about
Yes,
that.
because
But,
how
I mean,
it,
for
how
this,
it got missed out,
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't know. I would have thought that a general contractor would have included it, but
Are we still using that general contractor?
we are not.
no.
Okay.
We are not.
No, it was managed by Wilson
It was
Engineering.
Wilson Engineering
There's a
that
few
managed
hands in there.
it.
There's
Yeah.
Wilson Engineering was managing it. They're using Libra pools, and I think they had even one more, maybe Tiger Construction was in on it too.
Construction was part of it,
Wilson's
yeah.
been our go-to for years. We have a relationship there. It's a really good question for Wilson. Don't we rely on them to?
Yeah. I'm working
Figure out
with
this
the
kind of
maintenance
stuff.
manager right now to try to get any documents that they have on the pools. A lot of this was
I just wanna
really
make sure
tightly
that
held
we
onto
don't-
by the previous
That we're
GM.
not looking at going back to them and saying, how come, you know, was this part of the contract and was it not? That was not really my major question.
It was not part of scope of work.
Yeah.
The point is, we did a whole lot of work 3 years ago on mechanical work for the main pool.
For the main pool. Mhm.
And then that's
Pump
all
house.
emergency and
Mhm.
pump house and all of that stuff.
Mhm.
And at the time, the discussion was the adult pool was in good shape.
Yeah.
Just a
And
little
that's
bit.
true. And that was the conversation, we had conversations about the various equipment and what should be replaced and what shouldn't. The one thing that got added in after the fact was that the fence around this pool was in good shape, but by the time they took it down to do the repair of the pool, it was, half of it was destroyed. So that one we added as an additional after the fact, because they thought they'd be able to tear it down and put it back up looking as good, and that just wasn't, I wouldn't have known.
Okay,
you
are there
know.
more questions about?
Yeah, I do. I have another question. So it says that we have a 15% contingency on this. Somehow, I don't know, I'm just, you know, finance, so I don't know much about this sort of a thing. What is it we anticipate that could potentially cause a 15% contingency?
Yeah, so because we're using residential products now, and we're gonna be switching to commercial products, they do use more electricity, with the exception of one of those, which is that variable speed pump. So we have to do an electrical upgrade there, which isn't always a certain thing. You can run into things. It's a very old building. So that's what P&W has estimated for us.
Okay, I think it's fair. I just wanted to have some rationale
Yeah.
for it, so, okay. And the warranty, you said you have information on it, so
Yeah.
how long is it for and what does it cover?
Yeah, so the pool controller, that's the thing that actually pumps the chemicals into the pool. It's pretty cool, it's Wi-Fi enabled. So our pool technician, if I call him and I'm like, the pH is way off, you know, I'm not qualified to go in there and start messing with chemicals, but he can use his phone to adjust the chemical levels. Instead of coming out here, driving from, you know, into Bellingham and charging $99 an hour to come out here, he can just do it from his phone. So that controller
So
is,
charge us 98 instead?
right.
Who knows?
That controller is good. The warranty's for 5 years. I believe the pump is a 3-year warranty, and the filter and the heater is a 1-year warranty.
Thank you, that's all I have.
Patty, do you happen to know the useful life of these commercial grade products?
Yeah, I asked. They said estimated around 8 to 10 years. Residential is typically around 6, but we've been using them in a way that they shouldn't be used.
When was the last time you replaced them in here?
It's in the reserve study, and I wrote it down, and it's like all my notes. I know.
While you're looking at,
Oh,
I
here.
mean, how much this is in the reserve study for, this? the
Do you have that,
mechanical?
Joel?
I don't have a Lease Rates too.
I can pull it up on the,
Do you have it?
yeah.
I will say, you've got, I don't know how long you've had those, residential pool stuff, does not last.
Well, I imagine,
I know that firsthand.
I don't think it's been repaired since I lived here, which is about 5 years, so.
Yeah, the filter and the heater were placed into service in 2011, and the pump since 2014. So that's 9 years for the filter and the heater, and 6 for the pump.
What is it listed under?
Call the question?
Quiet pool.
Okay, without objection, all those in favor? I haven't seen on this, okay, that's approved.
Oh, it doesn't list the dollar amounts.
Oh, I have
Oh, it's
Scroll down. Hold on.
curiosity.
Oh, shoot.
80. Can you go to page 80?
Is
Yeah.
the pool heated by electricity or natural gas, or how does that, what is the,
It's a gas heater.
it's a gas, that's what I thought, okay. It sort of looked like it.
Mhm.
On a side note, the covers are on the pool now.
The covers are on the pools.
That's
We are
great.
so excited. They look great. And these are anchored like safety covers. They're actually going to post on our Facebook page. They're called GLI covers. They're like industry leading. They have this video on their website that's hilarious. It's this like intoxicated woman in a BMW SUV in an HOA, and she rams her car over a fence, and it jets onto their pool cover, and the car is just sitting on the cover. It's pretty amazing. So these are great covers. Oh yeah.
Where is the camera gonna go?
Yeah, no,
We have a camera on the pool. Yeah, just to answer your question, Karen, the heater was estimated at 4,200, the pump around 1,000. Yeah, and 1,050. I mean, these were the filter 2,600, but these are based on, I think, residential quality products.
So we'll come in higher.
We will come in a little higher, yeah.
I think one of the things that I appreciate about this too, Gabby, is just being aware about the recirculation requirements
Yeah.
that the county is gonna.
That's
I
something,
think
yeah.
that should be included in your, I think it should be included in your dialogue here
Okay.
for the board.
Yeah, I can revise that.
Because I think that's an important factor, and, you know, we have a community that wants these, so we should be providing them with, you know, a quality product.
Yeah, we want to have the pools be as healthy as possible, you know, for our members.
Well, and if the county was gonna shut us down, that's.
Yeah,
significant.
that's,
Okay, moving on to the request for purchase of utility vehicles. Jacob, I guess you're up on this one?
Yes. Good evening, Finance Committee. There are 2 requests I'm covering tonight, and the quotes, we received quotes at the same time, so there's a table after the requests that include all the items we are referring to tonight from the 3 different people that supplied bids. But I'll start out with the utility vehicles. And for 2020, we are requesting the lease of 3 light-duty and 2 heavy-duty utility vehicles to replace vehicles we have had in service since as early as 2000. And some of these have actually been deferred since before this reserve study was completed in 17. One of the 2000 Jacobson Truckster was actually moved from, I believe, 2016 forward. So we've, like I said, 5 vehicles there, and we've achieved an average age of 18 years. But at this time, and really since last year, we've exceeded the value of especially the light duties each year and what it costs to maintain them. I have one currently down with that needs an engine, so that's $2,500 plus our mechanics time to install, and something might only be worth $300 or $400 or $500 really when that's completed. So at this point, it would be ideal to not be throwing so much money into items that are so old. Then it also frees up time for our mechanic to service our rolling stock and send it out. These vehicles are used primarily on the golf course, but also with the Parks Department. They have one vehicle and 2 staff members, so at times they will, if they've got to be in 2 different places, park staff will use them in the rec corridor, marina, and other common areas. There are 3 vendors that have supplied quotes, and I asked, in working with Joe, we secured pricing for not only a lease, which is a 60-month term with a $1 buyout, and then also an outright purchase price. So on that table that follows, the financed amount is the purchase price, not including tax, of course. And then as you move to the right, the payment amount is the lease payment, then lease payment with taxes, and then finally the lease payment with a contingency. I'll speak to the contingency question on a lease. Why do we need that? In some cases, bids are only good for 30 days. One of these vendors is 30 days, and there can be slight changes, and I would hate to come back to you guys in a month and say, oh, it's over by $200, we need to debate it all again. That happened years ago, I think Linda might remember, on something I asked for and I had to come back for $400. And so, in the way contingency works, at least every time I'm involved with it, that's the GM's decision, whether we spend that, so it's not an automatic thing I can authorize to go forward unless there's some actual point to it. So the 5% in there is to ensure that we don't have to do twice the work if there's a price change. One of these bids was last week of December, so it's not anticipated we'd need that. But that's why it's there, and I'm recommending a lease, just with the current cost of securing funds is fairly affordable. It is more expensive to lease than to purchase over the term, but it frees up capital in the short term for other projects that you might need.
Can you help me with this table?
I would love to.
I'm not sure that I understand the columns.
Yes.
I don't understand what the rows, what the distinction is in the rows.
So in each case, and I did this a little bit backwards, I'm asking for the utility vehicles is what we're referring to now. That's the bottom 5 items in each grouping. And with the top item, which I apologize, is the reverse of the order the request memos are in, is the mower. So that's the 7400 and the 3505 and the AR-3310.
Okay, I'm confused even more now.
I apologize.
Sorry.
And I can bring it up on the
There
monitor.
are
so-
6 items here on
Yes,
each.
5 utility vehicles, 1 mower.
Yeah, the mower is line number 1, and then the utility vehicle.
Got it. Okay, now I'm
Two
there. Now I'm
pieces,
there.
yes.
Okay, now I'm there.
So
And I made one table, and I probably should have made 2. So I apologize.
I'm with you this time, I think.
There is also, the price is also noted, if we were looking to purchase, but in talking with Joe, I believe that we would recommend leasing at this time. We own them at the end, and lifespan is very similar to what we got out of our current vehicles, 18 years. If we, at the end of the lease, we own them.
So what's the rate for this lease? I mean, what's it costing us?
So each manufacturer supplied their pricing based on for example, John Deere used Wells Fargo. They shopped their rate between 2 different people. Wells Fargo was the lowest. And I would have to look back in my emails to confirm that rate.
It's
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah, me
If-
too. Okay, can we do a
Yeah,
motion,
let's
and then
do a
let's talk
motion.
about it, because I've got some issues
A
as well.
motion first on the vehicles, the five
Okay,
vehicles,
I'm gonna,
which is bottom of
I'm
page
gonna throw
27.
this in, I'll do this, but we're gonna have to amend this, and I'm planning on it, because
Okay.
there's gotta be something else in here. The Finance Committee approves and recommends the Board of Directors approve a CERB allocation of $1,872.87 per month for 5 years
Wow.
Mhm.
for the lease of new utility vehicles. That's still not everything, but that's what I'm gonna
Yeah,
start with.
that's where we're starting. Okay, is there a second?
I'll say.
Karen, second, okay.
Okay? All right, so I guess the first question I have is, I'm still not sure I understand. So you've got a Jacobson turf truckster,
Mhm.
and that's this, is it one of these?
That vehicle's not made anymore. So there's,
Oh, that's the old, so these are the old.
these are the old items
All
as
right.
noted. So the table in the
I got it.
finance request notes the
Mhm.
asset number. That corresponds to your reserve
Got
study.
it, okay.
Then
I'm
the
good
next
with that. I think I
column
knew
is
that.
the year purchased, then the
Okay.
brand, and then the reserve study.
All right, this is the old stuff here.
Those are the old
The
items.
new items are going, now, are you going with, you've got all these bids on different ones, so
Yes.
are you going with the Jacobson and Cushman? Or,
I was,
or did you mix and match?
no, the preferred vendor and the
Model?
most cost-effective option is through John Deere.
Okay, so we're going with all the John Deere,
It's the first,
the first group. Okay,
First
so
grouping.
the top one is the mower, but the bottom 5.
Mhm.
Okay, so the question I have is that if you come to, I haven't figured out I was trying to figure out where the 1872.87 came from, so I'm assuming it's the with taxes and contingency, adding all of those numbers together. I couldn't come up with it because I didn't know which things to add, but I'll double check it and make sure it's right. So the bottom 5 numbers in that group should equal this 1872.87. What I believe, and I think Joel will have to state this, but what I believe we have to include in this is what the total obligated funds are for the entire 5 years. Because you cannot go into a lease without setting aside the full amount of what is
Oh,
going
I
to
see,
have
for
to
your
be paid
future
over the 5-year period.
Mhm.
So even though it's just like we did with the golf carts,
Mhm.
we came up with the total amount that was obligated, even though we only paid it off monthly over a 5-year period. So and what I come up with is $112,372.20, if this $1,800 figure is correct.
Right. It's that number times 60, which is the term.
So
So
will you
you're right, I would have to
Would
read.
will you just double check it to make sure we're right, because I would wanna add that, and I will make a motion to amend our motion to include, and just say at the end, for a total of obligated funds of $112,372.20.
That's,
$112,300
$72.20.
okay, so you
But
do-
somebody check
okay.
my numbers and make sure that's accurate.
Well, first of all, I came up with 1824.33 for adding up the.
Okay, so that was.
Well, someone else check that.
Yeah,
Yes,
3, 4,
that's,
right.
yeah, no, I'm with you. That was what I tried to do earlier, and I couldn't figure out where the numbers were coming from.
Okay.
273.07.
And what's your total?
My total is,
Jake, how long is this quote good for?
33
um,
times 60 months.
Big John Deere,
Yeah, I'm with you. 1824.33.
All right.
That's what I came up with.
April.
Oh, you came up with
Hold
that?
on, hold on.
I'm calculating.
Hold on.
A comment here, please?
Yeah, this quote from John Deere is good for how long?
Till April.
To April, so theoretically, we would not need the 5% contingency. So we would be looking at,
Okay, that's fine. That was the other question I was gonna ask, is why the contingency, but, yeah, okay, April.
You'd be looking at 1737.47 a month.
Yeah.
Say that again, 17?
1737.47.
Yeah, that's no contingency.
That's no contingency because this quote is good to April.
Yes, okay.
Assuming you're gonna start it before, you don't want it before April, is that it? You want it
No, it's just,
May?
the one we're looking to go with is good till June.
I know, I was just
Which
kidding
comes
you.
to $104,248.20.
One
Sorry,
more
one more
floor.
time?
$104,248.20.
Thank you.
And I,
Okay,
Without contingency, yes, okay.
yep, I matched to that.
Okay.
so,
Okay, so,
We have to know what the interest rate is on this money that we're
Yes.
borrowing. I'm trying to figure it out, and we can't make the decision without knowing that.
okay.
I can't. So our monthly payment is gonna be $3,145 or $3,412?
no, 1,737.47.
Yeah, that's the second request.
That's the second request, not the first.
He's
Oh.
recommending that we
Although-
look at John Deere's.
Is that also, but that's also a lease,
Payments is 1872.
yeah, you could look at them together.
These are the ones we're buying up here,
Yes.
and we're not including this one up top. So,
No,
That's the second
request.
request.
The second request.
And the reason I put all those together is because they bid them all
Got it.
in the same document.
And
Mhm.
that's
That
what,
confused people, I'm sorry.
yeah, well, the documents, the bid documents confused me. I was like, they're gonna.
Can I just kind of ask you one question about these groupings here? They're from different vendors, but is it true that by getting a block bid like this, that they will reduce the price if you order all of them from them? Or can we just mix and match wherever we want to see the cheapest one from Group A, one from Group B? What would happen then?
So I have priced the two, there would be no further discounts if we only approved one versus, or there would be no further discounts if we approved two versus one, if that makes sense. Okay.
Not
So the
really.
more we buy, the cheaper we.
Well, yes, the more you buy, always
Okay.
the cheaper.
So we are getting a bulk discount by going with one vendor as opposed to picking two items out of one
Oh,
group and
yes.
one item out of
Yes.
another, et cetera, et cetera. Okay.
Yeah, you would not get the same deal if you like broke up the equipment into different
Right.
Right,
brands.
so you piecemeal it out.
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
I
So
apologize.
this represents the biggest discount. If we were to take them and piecemeal, it would be more per than this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, just want to clarify
so
that.
that was a good point.
Okay.
Plus, I'm guessing that the reason that you're doing this is for consistency, is having one manufacturer for
Yeah, so our,
servicing perspective.
yeah, we're trying to convert all to the John Deere. We have two currently, and we're trying to get the fleet all to one so that it simplifies maintenance and other things like that. They're also the closest service provider when things are under warranty. They're in Snohomish versus the other ones in Kent and the other ones in Portland. So generally, you get better service the closer they are, and the John Deere dealer is the closest. And also this. But I can also, and then we want rates on
Yeah.
all these leases.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and I'm gonna ask, I'm asking the same question every time. It's helpful to me to see a match that to the value of the amount in the reserve study, if they're there, so that we can see, okay, if we replace this, we already have this kind of designated for that.
Yes,
And my other question that just left my mind,
so,
was regarding the repair costs. You said we're spending more now than they're worth. It'd be nice to see the, operations offset, and
Okay.
how much we think we could save in, I realize it's not exactly savings, cause you'll be working on other things, but the cost of maintenance.
oh, there'll be a savings because your part costs aren't there, and they're under warranty.
And the time that Bill spends.
So there's definitely a savings. I can tell you, I mean, it'd be $5,000 to $10,000 for all 6 of these items, it'd be I'll run the numbers.
We're spending $5,000 to $10,000
In
A
repair
year-ish.
parts a
Okay,
year
parts.
for
Okay.
these.
That would be
And-
very helpful.
Yeah, and and that's backed up by the numbers, you know, in December, we were, I believe 7 over in, repairs and maintenance for equipment. And, when we defer and we don't buy stuff, then you end up, you have to keep it running somehow, so then we spend it anyway.
So are we financing through the lease 100, including everything, including the mower,
Mhm.
120,860 or 120,860 plus tax?
So what if we got 120,60 minus the top one, 35,000?
I don't wanna do that. I mean, it's all the same.
It's all the same, okay,
Yeah.
all the same company.
So how, they're calculating the lease payment based on 60 months and how much?
The payment, so we have a financed amount, that's the one, if you go at the top, that's 120,860. You pay interest on that, your lease payment, then you have to add taxes on top of that. The taxes aren't financed, they're just we have to pay them though at the,
As part
each
of your
month,
lease payment.
as part of your lease payment.
So the 2278 is the amount of the lease payment before taxes
Correct.
on the 100, I mean, that's like a 24% interest rate. This is 22.6%.
Well, the finance amount's 120, and I believe it was 12, when I ran the numbers, it was, if you take the, payment amount times 60, let me do that real quick, it was 2278.01 times 60-month term is 136 minus 120,860. You're paying $15,000 more.
I had something wrong here, now it says 5%.
Yeah,
So
I
it's
believe
like
it was in the 4s.
I got about 8.36% overall.
Well, lease amount 120,860, 5 years, $2,278 payment is 4.95%. That's what I'm using. If that's wrong, we need to know. But
You're using, it's calculated,
Yeah.
you're using
Yeah.
an
amortization calculator.
Yeah, I believe when I talked to him on, in email.
Well, 5% is obviously reasonable.
Yeah, I was in the
Leases have a
4s.
history of, you know,
Because I talked to Joel and I said, do we want to look at, I know we leased gym equipment from our own line of credit, right?
We did, yes.
And was that below 5?
yes, right on those. It was in the ballpark, I think.
Okay.
No,
I don't know.
I can't remember, I
It's a
want to say.
3-year lease, right?
Yeah, it was 3-year lease, I want to say somewhere 575, something like that.
So we don't know how much this equipment is listed on the reserve study currently?
We did.
Oh, we
I
did.
can list off those numbers.
You just asked that question.
I
right?
asked it, but I didn't get it.
I did not include it.
No,
You know,
didn't. That's-
So from the 2000, or from the last reserve study, which is 2017, the light duty utility vehicles are at 9737. The mower has a replacement value of 33,384.
Say that
And-
again, sorry.
I'm sorry, yes, the mower replacement value is, or reserve study value is 33,384.
Yeah, it's on the front page.
And then on the heavy duties, we have a value of 22,615. So those are the last
For each,
Where did you see?
for each. This is on page of the Schwint and Co., it's page 29 of the reserve study.
So,
Oh, not in the packet, sorry, it's in the reserve.
so Jacob didn't have the replacement cost of the utility vehicles in his request.
But I can add
So
that to
he
the table.
gave those to us.
Mhm.
2 of them were 22,615, and the other one was 97,37,
There's 3 of those.
the other 3.
And then the
And
mower,
then the mower, he already has the replacement cost from the reserve study in that request, which is $33,383.61. Rather than 64.
So just looking at this, the statement is that these are expected, their lifespan is around 15 years. And if we look at the ones we have now, the newest one has already gone 16 years and, you know, they go back to 2000. So if we get new ones, these will next be put into the reserve study for 15 years from now. there will be.
Yeah, I would probably look at 18, that's our average age right now, that's what I'd recommend in the reserve study.
Okay.
I'm finding that equipment lasts longer, just like cars than the previous versions. But, that's a,
Just like humans, we're all, longer life
We hope.
expectancy.
Because we eat better, right?
but the reserve study is something you have to watch, if you look at the pool pumps and filters, there's,
Yeah. Okay, Karen, you have,
Well, I added up all of the financed amount, okay, which was, for this first section, is the 11,320 3 times and the 25,5 twice. That comes to $84,960. If we finance it, this is before tax. If we finance it, this is including tax, apparently, it's 104,248, so about $20,000 more.
in financing,
But some of that is tax.
a good deal of it.
A large portion of it is tax, so maybe half of that.
I don't understand what you're saying.
What I'm saying is, I'm looking at, if we just purchase them outright, we could purchase them for $84,960 plus tax.
We either pay the tax all now, or we pay the payments over the life of the lease.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. If we were to pay for the whole thing now with tax, it's gonna be 84 plus tax. So say at, 100,000, something like,
Taxes would be,
but I mean,
Yeah.
90,000,
and all,
90,000, 92,000, something like that. So, I mean, I was just trying to get a sense of,
Mhm.
we're trying to stretch it out, and I understand why, because we got a lot of things to do. I just wanted to get a sense of it. But the amount, the total obligation, based on what we're talking about here, is I come up with 104,248.80.
Okay. Question to accounting. If we were to purchase these outright, how would that impact other projects from CERT for this year? We don't know that
Well,
yet.
with the taxes into it, so it comes out to about 129,000, if you just purchase it out, no, wait, excuse me.
That's
You don't want
high.
that top line.
yeah,
Oh, that would, you would if to include them all, I guess, yeah. I didn't do that. I'm only looking at the one motion right now.
Yes, yes.
So I didn't do both of them. I was just trying to do the first 5.
Well,
Just the first line.
and
The 5 vehicles.
Colin's doing it as a package because that's what it is.
Mhm.
So that's kind of what we have to look at it.
And that's the
From
thing that's
perspective.
confusing, because we've got two different
If we buy them, we have $100,000 less for CERT this year.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
So that's a
essentially,
problem.
that's,
Then we need to finance it.
yeah.
So the quickest thing right now is if we just turn on that cash.
Last I checked, CERT is going negative in like 2 years, so I guess we probably shouldn't.
Spend all cash.
Yeah.
I mean, for SURF as of the end of November, and this is including everything, so this includes all the obligations, and SURF, all the approved stuff. So you'd have 336,756 left over. So it would just eat into that 336.
We need to,
And that's after the board recommended
Mhm.
carry cash balance of
Oh, yeah, that's
600,000.
after you take the
Right.
600,000 out, yeah.
most of this time has been spent trying to figure out what the interest rate is to borrow the money, and then for me, and then.
Your interest rate was right too. I was doing the payment with taxes in it.
Oh, okay,
On
yeah,
average,
it's tricky, there's a lot of numbers, and then not having, having on every item, if we have the replacement cost from the reserve city is hugely helpful.
yeah, I'll add that to the table
It does.
for the
Yeah.
board.
So,
Or for you.
I mean,
not
obviously,
only
you
that, we have
wanted,
to
you
have
recommended
the-
that we finance it, you wanted to do
Yeah.
that, we don't wanna just do whatever you ask us to do, we wanna make sure that we have all our questions answered, so I'm just trying to fill in the gaps so that we can get there quicker next
Right,
time.
and also that we have the motion properly, which is to make sure we have the full obligated amount included in the.
Okay.
Shouldn't you just reword the request in the first place and say the obligated amount for the month on a lease of this amount?
I don't care how it's worded, we just need to have that figure in there so that we know what the total obligated funds are. So, I mean, if you wanna make an amendment,
I can't do that.
Okay,
oh yeah, you can, okay, all right.
so the motion on the table right now is to request $1,824.33 including tax and 5% contingency per month allocation from CERF for the lease of 5 utility vehicles.
And by the way, it's 48,
That's,
1824 yearly.
That's not the right amount.
Right, the
Yeah.
contingency's coming out anyways.
It's the total amount.
Yes,
Hang on.
exactly. And
Total amount is
I'm reading what's on
20.
here now, and my suggestion is, Carol, would you like to withdraw? your
I'm gonna
motion and
withdraw
we'll
my
start over?
motion. Yes, I'm gonna withdraw
Okay.
the motion.
The correct amount is, the total, including everything, is 2471.64 with taxes, without contingency, because we don't need it. We subtract out the mole for 734.17, and we have 1,737.47.
Right,
That's the amount that we need to approve.
okay.
What's the
So-
Say that number again for the, this is for both?
$1,737.47 for the 5.
Per month for a 5-year lease, yes.
For a total obligated amount.
104,248.20.
That's what you said before.
That's what I have too.
Okay.
Um,
I wrote that somewhere like that.
You ready for a motion?
248, you said 248.20, I came up with 248.80, I don't know why, but that, I don't care, it's a small enough amount, I don't
Is that an
really
old calculator?
care. No, yeah, on my iPhone, yeah.
I move that we request $1,737.47, including tax, per month from the CRRRF account for the lease of 5 utility vehicles
For 5 years?
for 5 years, for a total obligation of $104,248.20.
A second that?
Second.
Okay. Okay, anything else you'd like to discuss on this? If there's nothing else, then.
The only thing, that in this request, we want to make sure that, we have the interest amount.
Yeah,
Yes.
And
Specified, it does
the-
go to
and
the
the
board, I would
reserve
like to add the
study.
interest amount.
The research study
The
amounts.
reserve study amounts.
Reserve.
And if you could break these, 3
Out.
out as to
Yep.
the utility vehicles versus the other would make it more clear as well.
My apologies.
And you're gonna mention that there's no 5% contingency?
Correct.
Yeah.
So you're gonna just redo that table, is it?
Yes, yeah, I've got to change, we will have to change the request wording, the table will have to change to add the information, and then there'll be wording as to the, interest rate for the bids.
And the other thing you're gonna include is the cost of repairs right now on these, so that we get a sense of
Your offset.
Repair
what your
cost
offset is
savings.
to replace them versus keep
If you-
repairing.
If you can,
Yeah.
parts and then labor.
Labor for
Also,
Mhm.
it's the labor that I was saying isn't necessarily savings, we still have that, but to know that that amount of time or whatever could
Yeah.
go
I agree.
towards something else is good to have.
All right, I feel better about that now. When I read it, I couldn't understand it. So, thank you for going
Okay,
through all
anything
of
else?
that. Call the question.
Okay, hearing no objection, all those in favor of the motion to request $1,737.47, including tax per month for 5 years, to be allocated from SURF to account for the lease of 5 utility vehicles.
For a total obligation
For
of,
a total obligation of $104,248.20. All those in favor? Unanimous, okay.
Second item is the trim mower, and these are, I forgot to mention in the first part, these are the critical items for the department I work with, for the golf course and limited amount in parks, but the trim mower is a 2008, has about 3,000 hours on it. We have, in the past year, had quite a bit of breakdowns, which cause us not only to have to repair it, but also decreased conditioning, which can affect our, how we are competitive in the market. So I'm proposing replacing that mower. This is on the, I did add the replacement cost for some reason on this one. So the asset number is there, the replacement year is 2020, and replacement costs noted in the reserve study is there. I worked this also as a lease. The table notes the first item in each one of the groupings from each manufacturer is the mower in question. So those replacement costs range from 33 to 36.5. The John Deere is definitely the preferred unit of those three. For us, it has some similar parts to our rough mower that we purchased in 2016, so it's easier for service to stock only a few parts and have familiarity with that. Also, the John Deere dealer is the closest for warranty repairs and for service when needed. Our costs, we generally throw in the neighborhood of $3,000 to $4,000 in the last 3 years on this machine into keeping this running.
So, and parts or parts only?
That's only parts. Yeah, our labor, I mean, because we only have one mechanic across all of Sun Valley for all rolling stock, it's,
Can I make a motion so we can discuss
Is that
this part of
yeah,
it?
Benny?
But can we clarify first what the amount will be?
$734.17.
Thank you.
So that's what I'm gonna do the, motion for.
Okay, 734.
So I'm gonna do the finance committee recommends, the board approve and, a SURF allocation of $734.17 per month for 5 years for purchase of a new trim mower. I don't know what the total obligation is to anyone.
$44,050.20. And I will second that.
What am I talking
$44,050.20.
Okay.
44050.20.
Okay, your second.
Yeah.
Second, okay. All right, questions, comments?
Yeah,
Call the question.
Somebody was gonna ask, when I stopped Karen, I think, from asking a question. when
No,
said
I was
whether
just
it
wondering
was-
if that was parts, he answered, he said it was just parts, 3,000 to 4,000 in parts per year is
Okay.
into this.
So similarly, I'd say, let's make sure that we have the same kind of information in this as you do in the other one. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Anything else that?
We want the interest rate, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm forward, okay. All right,
Okay, call the question.
any other comments?
It might be good to add in here that you see this lasting for 15 years or something. Okay.
Oh, yeah, like,
5 years?
8 years.
trying to do the math in my head real quick here.
This one's 12 years, is.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't think it's, but
It
you
may
say
not
more
last
than
that
that,
long.
but I
It's
think.
3,000 hours.
I don't know, however you
Yeah.
think the life expectancy, so we've got some documentation. We'll
Okay.
do it on next reserve study when we talk to whoever's doing the reserve study.
Mhm.
So another change we're going to is we're going from a machine with reel type units to a rotary, which is much easier to service and they tend to have a longer lifespan. I didn't really go into that wording because it's fairly technical, but, so I would actually anticipate it last a little bit longer, but 12 years is a safe guess. And I'll add that, terminology, or I'll add that, quote, that, to the
Great,
revised.
perfect.
Call the question?
Okay. All those in favor of this motion? And it is unanimous, okay.
So for comparison purposes, if you're interested, the yearly cost for this one is $8,800. And you said you're spending 3,000 to 4,000 on parts, so $4,000 or $5,000 more.
Yeah.
I mean, I know those different categories, but not a lot.
Okay, moving on then to the audit update. I would like a report from staff on the audit and the auditors from last year. And I understand that there were some concerns about their performance. Could you give us a report on that, please?
Well, from my experience, of course, they came on here and
September, so the audit was all finished. So for me, it would just be in terms of reviewing the financial statements. Actually, it was Linda, you know, who's put in an information request, and she wanted to know about a number on the footnote and on the income statement. At first I thought, oh, I'm sure she's not right on this, you know. It's like, I'm sure it's right, you know. So when I looked at the footnote, the income statement, it's like, son of a gun, she's exactly right. Yes, there is a problem with this, you know. So basically, the bottom line from my side of it is the income statement had to be totally reworked. It just came down to the classifications of the, you know, basically the line items on the income statement are a bucket of GL line items and classifications, and so some buckets, you know, didn't have the right numbers. Some line items had the right numbers, but they were on the totally wrong line, so it had to be completely retooled, basically. And a couple of footnotes had to be completely fixed. They weren't even updated from the prior year, so that was frustrating from my standpoint, working on it.
What else?
One of the things, when Carol was finance chairman, we had to request from Newman and Associates a management letter, which is standard practice. It is the cover letter for the audit. That is 101. That should have been there. We should not have had to.
It's part of their bid too.
We should never have had to ask for that, as well as when some of the presentations, there were some processes that I don't feel he read through our processes that we have in place. He had brought up some questions that stuff that we already do. So that was the way I was looking at it. Carol and I, you know, we were very concerned that we didn't get a management letter. And then when Linda found the mistake and we went through the other stuff, there was other things that were not up to speed.
Okay. Carol?
I also, we provided him with several templates of things to use, because our balance sheet looks a little different than his, and we asked him if he would verify our format to make sure that it matched his. We had to ask him multiple times and send the template several times before we got it. Every time I went to him, he said, well, this is way more work than I have ever dealt with before. I really got the sense that this gentleman probably, I think he's, very honest and so forth, but he just, I don't think has ever worked with such a large group of such a large HOA. I suspect that probably it was more the smaller condo type HOAs, and I think it was a little overwhelming, and he's one person. And we had understood that he was part of a bigger group. He had just merged with them, but
He does have a staff.
He
he
does
may
have
have a staff now, but he
Right.
was the one who came each time, and it just seemed like there was, at times he'd be very responsive and answer, but then other times we'd have trouble getting a hold of him, so it just didn't seem to be in the best interests of Sudden Valley. My recommendation was that it was not in our best interest to continue. Yeah.
Okay, I heard this from, a couple of different areas that there were, concerns about it, and how does the finance committee feel about this kind of performance and moving forward with the same company or looking at something
I
else?
would not touch him with a 10-foot pole.
Well, and understand that the finance committee sat through his presentation before the board.
I didn't find his conversation about what he did and his summary, I thought it was very unclear. I thought he brought up stuff in weird ways, and he was talking about, he would refer to examples of things that had nothing to do with our organization, and it was very hard to follow what he was saying, and it sounded like he was having problems with our organization when he was talking about some other organization completely. I would never, ever use him again. I thought he was deplorable.
Anything else?
Well, this is the first audit that I had sat through, but there were a few things that came up that I did notice where we were saying, we do that, and so that's concerning to me because that is the biggest point of an audit, is to understand what your processes and internal controls are, so if he wasn't aware that we were doing things, to me, that kind of stood out. Those were the biggest things that.
Okay, we have recommendations.
So did we get,
Okay,
yeah,
now,
I was confused by this. It looks like we went out and got,
okay, I had heard that there were issues, and in order to be prepared, I asked staff to bring us some quotes for other auditors, okay? Now, what has come back, I would like to see more than we have here. And I'll tell you what, you know, Larson Gross we've had before, and they're responsive, and we know that. We have the Newman quote here, but if we say that we have no confidence in them, you know, basically, that gets thrown out. So, that's one that goes away. The other one that we have here is from Gary Porter. It turns out that, first of all, their quote is $10,000 less than these others.
Yeah, just to boil it down, so Larson Gross is 27,500. Newman is 25,000, Porter is 17,800.
Yeah, and to me, that's a red flag. I mean, to me, it says that they don't understand the scope of the work to be done, and having gone through this Newman thing, you know, the other thing is they're in California, and that can be a communication challenge. And then the name rang a bell. And this was the group that worked with, 10 years ago, when we got the 501c4 classification. And so we've worked with them before, and there were, I think that there would be concerns with the community if we would go with Gary Porter. Okay. And therefore, I'm left here with one responsive bid, which is Larson Gross. I want to see more. No, I would like to see something more local, more responsive. When do we have to have this? When do we have to, like?
Well, Larson Gross said, like, we went, just to give you an idea of the timeline, you know?
Yeah.
If we went with them, then they could come out here and do the audit around, you know, approximately August,
Okay.
probably late July, August, so that's the time frame.
So if we were to wait for a month on this, it would still be
It would, yeah, it would
within reason?
possibly be within reason.
Yeah, okay.
And these three that are in this packet, by the way, when you guys did the RFP
Yeah.
in 2018, these three were the only ones that like responded to your RFP.
Yeah.
So
That's
the
what I
reason
was
why I
gonna
went back to
say,
these
is
guys-
the challenge we have
Right.
is people responding.
Yeah,
Oh, no,
Moss
absolutely.
would not respond, they never responded, they notified us that they would not be bidding, Moss Adams.
They're not gonna do an audit for 25, yeah.
No,
Yeah.
of course not, yeah, and especially for an HOA. The other issue is HOAs are not your common animal, they're not a typical commercial
Yeah.
endeavor, which is what most of your auditors do, so it is a little bit of a unique individual. So I don't have a problem with looking and asking again.
Yeah.
Haley, is it Haley, what's the, I think it's Haley,
from Mars.
check, no, the name of another auditor, is, I think it's a couple of women who run this particular one. If you look back in, I think it might be 2017, they did respond, but they
Yeah,
were
they're
only a
actually-
4-person staff, and we worried that we would be like overwhelming them, and I don't think they either understood, because their bid was significantly lower. But if you go back and look in the files, you might just reach out to them and ask them if they would be willing to bid again.
You know where they're at?
Here in Salt Lake, yeah, but they're a small, relatively
Here in
small.
Salt Lake?
All right, that's what you get for 34 years in Utah. Here in Bellingham. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're here in Bellingham or somewhere close by.
Between here.
They're probably, yeah, they're, 1 or 2 states away.
Okay, that's fine.
Sorry. That was it. But yeah, I would try, but and then we will have done our due diligence if no one responds. And then we can try again, yeah.
Okay.
I'm fine with that.
I feel like that's the consensus, is that we are, prefer not to use Newman again for the reasons given, and.
Why did we wait until months later to have everyone vent their frustrations with their performance? I mean, we had the audit presentation, I I mean, I didn't think it was great, but I didn't think it was the worst thing that I've ever seen in my life, which is my impression
I spoke
of
about
it.
it at that time.
Oh, well, I must not
Yeah,
have seen it.
I think
I
we
said
discussed it.
And after the presentation to the board, I immediately went to, I think it was Joe and Carolyn said, we should never use this guy again.
Okay.
Yeah, so I can say honestly that I spoke about it months ago.
Yeah.
Well, I either wasn't here or wasn't paying attention or don't remember, so.
Well, I think you want to be cautious, I mean, because there was nothing done inappropriately, it was just not, I just don't think
Basically not,
it was not we weren't confident about how
We
it
did
was
have
done.
Larson Groves for several years,
Yes.
and we didn't change because they did a bad
No,
job.
and I told
We-
them that, yeah.
Yes, but we changed because every once in a while, you should bring in a new set of eyes to
exactly.
look at your books and to look at your accounting, and we've done that.
Yeah.
So, we'll look next month and see.
If you have trouble finding that other one, I think I may have it on my computer.
Is it Archer Halliday?
That's it. Archer,
Shall I send you the one?
it's close, okay.
Dennis Archer
Halliday.
Group, he's been in the
I
county.
think why I thought Halliday, I think that person, Jennifer knew her
He
from
used to do scouts.
some other accounting situation. She worked with her briefly or something and asked her if she would be willing to.
They've
Anyway,
had some
you
changes
And you
in the last
told,
2
do you have
years.
any other ideas?
They've had some changes.
You know Archer Halliday?
I do.
They have had some changes, meaning
Yes.
positive?
Well, Dennis Archer died a couple of years ago,
So
and
maybe just have.
Halliday is stepping out of business, so.
Oh, okay, so
they were buying,
so follow through, see what you can
long
find
time.
out. Now you have new information.
And,
That'd be great.
and what are additional recommendations that you have?
Okay.
We will not re-engage. That's the only thing. We just have, if we're gonna use them again, we just have to use a re-engagement letter, so we will notify them that.
My question is, did we sign, I didn't get involved in the actual contract with it. I don't know whether we
We haven't-
engaged them for
we
3
haven't
years.
Signed the new engagement letter yet.
Yeah, okay, I just was curious as to, I know you had asked me about that, and I just wanted to make sure we weren't gonna be paying any kind of penalty if we didn't continue working.
Just to do this so that it's very clear,
Mhm.
can I hear a motion to engage another auditor, except Newman, find another auditor, and not to re-engage Newman?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, thank you.
And then will you include that into the board, or, I mean, even if you.
Yes, we will, this information will go to the board, it's, because we are having the finance committee meeting so late, I have put all of this on the board, packet, and, we will make recommendations, as we go. Okay, new business, nothing, financial statements, November 19th financial statement, pages 57 to 62. Joe, you wanna go over that, please?
Yeah. So for you guys, page 57. So the balance sheet, the good thing with the balance sheet is there's nothing too exciting on it, which is a good thing. It's, your net operating assets, you know, your assets are all positive. You're not borrowing into liabilities, for stuff. You know, I pointed this out last time, I'm pretty certain, but down in the long-term liabilities, you know, we used to see that gym loan line item, I'm pretty sure I brought that up in October. That is now gone because it's paid off, so that's why you don't
I
see
have a
it.
question about this page,
Uh,
before you go any further. Member receivables, what in the world was it in December? How come it was $48,000 in December?
Because at the end of December, for GAAP, you have to reserve, your receivables,
Okay,
anything
okay,
like
got
90
it.
days and below. And
Right.
so, at the end of the year, will always pop up.
Okay.
Like, for example, I just did the journal entry for.
Got
this
it,
year.
okay, got it. All right, the other question I have is, I don't know whether it's it may be just a formatting issue, but under accounts, the current liabilities, accounts payable, has a dash in front of the 29 instead of parentheses.
Okay.
It just looks very different. Under current liabilities,
Okay.
all the way over to under, increase, decrease, it has a negative in front of the 29,902, a little dash, instead of parentheses. It's just a formatting issue.
Yeah, the first line.
Yeah.
That Newman did that.
Yeah. All right, not fair. I like the net operating assets, that looks good. And then, the water district, say, the assignment of savings, it looks like that has been released, or most of it has, is that right? When I looked at the capital
It
report.
was a holding fund for the,
That
was for
infrastructure,
the-
yeah.
it was for the,
That should be, okay.
Yeah, well, I'm wondering if it has been released yet. It looked like
I seem
it.
to remember that happening.
It was,
Yeah.
it was supposed to, I thought back here that it had been. I looked at the capital report.
Yeah.
With a 126,
Yeah. So anyway, I'd just like to know what that status is on that. Okay, great, thanks.
Okay.
We don't have a heating system.
This assignment of savings cash, I believe, is still in that account. Matter of fact, I was just looking at that not
It
too
would
long
seem
ago.
like we should get it back,
And I need to look at that document, yeah.
because we're
just
done.
To see, so this one is just a matter of just a transfer from one account to another, and the
Okay,
capital.
I just wondered if it was earning any interest in this.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay, okay.
So page 58 for you guys, for the income statement. So, we'll just look at the year-to-date column since we're so close to the end of the year, the 11-month ending. Now this, so we're currently standing at a 97.2% collection rate, which is great. Last year we were at 97.4%, so we're staying basically exactly the same, which is a really good place to be at this point. Going down to your total expenses, the 3.2 million of expenses. So the big highlight with that is we're at 91.8% expenditures to revenues, which just means for every dollar revenue we take in, we spend about 92 cents of that. Now, last year at this time, we were at 95.2%. So basically the big takeaway from that is controlling our expenses is better at this point than it was last year at this point. Now with this total expenses, this basically worsened budget, 146,000. So I'd like to point out, so approximately 60, yeah, so $64,000 was spent to fix potholes in roads. So that is kind of, if you took that 64,000, if we didn't spend that money on those roads instead of taking from capital, then we would have been 82,566, worse than budget technically on expenditures. Meaning our expenditure rate would have been even better if it wasn't for that. But that was an expenditure spent on the roads and not in operations.
Is that in maintenance?
Yes, it's in maintenance, that's
That's
right.
what that 134,000.
Yeah,
that's
it's in
great.
that bucket.
Mhm. Well done.
A question on, that we talked about the last time when that had to do with the surplus, the operations
Mhm.
surplus. Where would we see that on here?
So that's going to be net income loss under basically third column from the right,
Okay,
at 286,081.
yeah,
Mhm.
That's your surplus as of
Yeah.
the end of November,
okay,
at
so,
that point.
so that's something that we wanna keep
Yeah.
our eye on now,
Right. And yeah, I've already done a preliminary number on that. So this number is pretty good, meaning the thing that could change this would be any invoices still floating in through accounts payable that could hit December. So right now we're looking at about $187,109 of approximate surplus at the end of December. And that could change depending on, the thing, like I said, the thing that would change would be invoices coming in that happen to hit in December, or that were December.
which is
invoices.
probably nothing that's huge, or else
It shouldn't be at
we
this
have our,
point,
eye on it,
yeah.
yeah, okay.
Uh,
All right, and so
Did you
then
say
that,
187?
Yeah, 187,100
And that's, will be used to pay down, the principal on
on
our
the surplus.
surplus.
Right, yeah. And, keep in mind, the Western Refinery, you know, was pulling, you know, spending on the potholes 64,000, otherwise that would kind of float up more around 250, so it's still within the approximate range.
It was a
of
good
what
use
we
of the
were-
money, I think.
Yeah, oh, yeah, absolutely.
One question, Joe, so, just looking at current month, I know you're a ditch biggie, but we had one thing that really jumped out in that $81,000 variance on maintenance.
That's the potholes.
So
That's,
64,000 and then 81,000.
would be the would be the pothole
Okay.
work, yeah. Is
So
that,
we did all that work in November.
that's right,
But we got
yeah.
hit. That's one
All
of
those
the-
invoices came in
In November.
yeah.
We're talking about potholes up in gate 5.
Yeah, it was, gate 5, there was another couple down, gate 2 at the bottom, there were some spots that we hit, but most of it was gate 5.
Yeah, okay.
So one of the other big variances too is this contract and professional services, and isn't that partially, we pay the contractor that does the new builds?
No,
So-
contractor would be,
Like trees, stuff.
yeah, tree stuff,
So where does-
or it would be the
Attorneys.
temp agencies and things of that nature.
Yeah, and attorneys.
So where does, as it, John's, where does that hit?
John
Gordon.
John Gordon would be,
He's in the ACC security budget.
Okay,
Yeah. You can
well,
see that better under the department,
okay.
check the department,
I'm wondering what line I
And
don't know.
John should be in there in contract with professional services.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, so I think
Professional
that
services.
that's driving increased expenses, but it's also, there's revenue that comes
Yeah.
in for that, so. Your expenses will look even better if you.
Another thing, because John, you know, had a bunch of invoices that came in December, this is usually when he drops off a bunch of invoices, and, so that, you know, those are sizable amounts, so that also contributed to that 187 surplus number as well right there. But, I mean, they were all 2019 expenditures.
Yeah, the construction, the new home construction fees were 70,000
Yeah.
more than, so that in itself, that was the increase in that. And then you had, golf income was 111,000 more than budgeted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Year to date.
Yeah.
And a large decrease in expenses in operations.
Exactly, at 119,000.
So, help me with that. Did we intentionally not spend something because we said we wanna save money?
no,
Or,
No, we didn't.
no.
That was our budget.
so,
We stayed in line with the budget as best as we could.
And remember, our budget
We
was
did
set at
not-
91%.
We did not spend anything that was needed to be done.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I can tell you right now.
The only extra stuff was, 30 Fairway, we did with the extra, we did the extra potholes, we did some of the, when we found that we were gonna be better, we started putting it back into the roads and into the community. That was the only thing that was outside of the scope.
Okay.
If you'll recall, last year, we budgeted at 91% collections rate. So that's pretty much what your budget was, what your actual spend was
But,
close to the actual budget.
We spent more than what we budgeted, so it wasn't, I mean, there's nothing here that says that, yeah, we definitely were too tight, right? I mean,
Right.
Right.
Yeah. But the expenditures were less percentage-wise than they were last year.
as a percentage of revenue.
That's right.
And our revenue, our collection rate was very similar.
It was, that's right, yeah.
Okay.
Our revenue's higher this year too, we have higher dues, so
We do, but percentage-wise, yeah.
just gotta, when you're comparing percentages, sometimes it gets a little.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why, like looking at it as a percentage of expenditures to revenue kind of, it takes away the difference, the fact that we had more revenue, you know, so that. Meaning like, so last year, for every dollar of revenue we spent, you know, about 95 cents in expenditures, versus this year, for every dollar of revenue we spent 91.8 cents in expenditures.
Okay, we had in reserve funds.
Yeah, page
59.
59, yeah. So with this, one little change, I don't know if I made this back in October, but it's definitely here in November, is down under SURF, the very first column. You'll see where I took obligated expenditures and I split out the golf course irrigation 2020 into its own bucket, in a sense. But this is reflecting as though, like on these, on those capital sheets, as though we spent everything, you know, it's already earmarked if it's on the capital sheet. And this is as of November versus these capital sheets, I went ahead and just pushed up to December to make it more accurate for a year end. Now, the big thing, I guess, you know, for this is at the beginning of the year for the cash that we started, that top line item versus the very bottom line item, the net current year cash increase, decrease, like each one of these buckets are better in a sense than what they were last year in terms of, like, for example, SURF.
So is that 378 on the top line on SURF, is that after the 600? Or is
No.
that before,
That's
without
before.
consideration?
That's right.
So you were under the 600?
No,
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 that's a carryover.
Yeah.
no, that's the carryover over and above the
So,
600. It was
yeah.
978.
It was 978.
Yeah. Mhm.
I can find that real quick. Well, actually, I mean, on the balance sheet, it says 378,709 for SURF and at December 31, 2018.
Mhm.
So the net current year cash increase, as a percentage of where you started, or, well, not percentage, but where you started versus where you ended, improved this year over last year.
So that comment that you made just before that, were you saying that that 378,709 was actual cash and not exclusive of the 600 that's kind of the golden pot that we keep?
Yeah, that 378,709 number on CERT, like if you flip back one page, will tie directly on the balance sheet under capital. For the audited number at December 31, 2018 is 378,709. So like those top numbers will always tie back to the balance sheet numbers.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So that brings us, yes, it was underneath that $600,000 amount.
Yeah, that's the problem, that's why I brought it up. Because if you look at the 715 down below and you take the 600, it says we have 115,000 now. And we're up 336, so.
That accounts for obligated though, right? Obligated amounts, it's not actually
Yeah.
cash.
The, did you say the 115? That's the number you were talking about?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
December 31st, 19 says 115.
So that
Over
number,
the 600.
that number is basically pretending like we're taking 600,000, just setting it off to the side.
Which we generally kind of try to do.
Yeah, yeah. So you have to look at the line up above that. That net usable cash, 750,000.
I know, so am I comparing the 715 with the 378, or am I comparing the 115 with the 378?
You could,
715.
Yeah. if you just wanna look at like cash and forget about how much you're hoping to set aside, you would compare 715 to 378.
So you didn't have 600 at the end of the beginning, January 1st of 19,
No,
set aside.
no.
Whoa.
Okay, wait a minute, wait though, hold on. This 378,709 was, I don't understand that, because we've not gone below it before, so that's surprising to me. But somewhere in there, something's not quite right about that. What about the obligated amounts? Because we had a lot of, what was that? What?
I just said,
Oh, I don't want to say that. That doesn't make sense to me.
It's these, like those numbers on this balance sheet,
You must be right, but that's,
like those numbers tied to the
we're not
audited
supposed to go
financial
below, but
statements.
we had obligated funds. We've had obligated funds that sometimes because of obligated funds, we look like we're below, but we haven't really spent below. Because we've got, especially with all the.
But on the balance sheet, that shouldn't, it should be cash, right?
Yeah.
It should be cash in the
Oh, yeah.
account, it shouldn't have anything to do with obligations.
Well, that's what I'm, that's
obligated
what's,
funds.
Like this cash, the only thing that would affect it would be.
I guess I
deposits
don't
or
understand the
checks or-
report well enough, so it makes me a little nervous to make a statement about it, because I'm not quite sure what's going on, but
I'll
that's a
try to
good
get with
question.
Joel before we meet again and see what we think. See if
Yeah.
can-
I wanna get an answer to that, because that's, yeah, that's kinda weird.
We can find out who the
Yeah.
treasurer was last year.
Yeah, you better find out who the treasurer was. What's going on. That's,
Yeah,
Okay. Thank you, Joel.
Yeah.
okay.
Now let's turn the page to, we'll just skip over to the year-to-date on page for you guys 61. So now Carol touched on this. The big thing for this is the golf, like the big story this would be. So we have actual revenues, very first column for golf, 883,731. That's an increase of $98,562 in the revenue where they were in November 2018. Their net income for, at the end of November 2019, 41,836 versus at the end of November 2018, they had a loss of 11,954. And, like the preliminary numbers, I don't have the exact number for golf, is that they do have a net profit at the end of,
you
December.
anticipate they will.
Oh, yeah, for certain,
Yeah, good,
yeah.
excellent. That's I think we should celebrate that. It's been several years. since
Making
we've been-
progress.
Yes,
Yeah.
making progress, and even though expenses have gone up every year.
This is a net operating income.
I have something I noticed as well, so in addition to golf, the other piece that I think is amazing is, and I don't know if you've calculated what the rec department's ending amount is gonna be, but it looks like they're pretty close to breaking even. It's 17, we're at 17 right now. So I have a few people that I really wanna recognize for that. First of all, good job, Maddie,
Thanks.
managing that, because I know you've had a tough time with all the expenses that you weren't expecting necessarily. And good job to Angie for doing such a fabulous job on collections, because otherwise we would be upside down. And a fabulous job to Sun Valley Strong, who put together a budget for a new department. We knew nothing except what you could come up with, what you thought it was gonna be, and it's like 3.5% off or something. That's just, to me, phenomenal. So, lots of good credit out there for that. It's wonderful, awesome.
Yeah. Those, I believe, are basically the biggest highlights of these financial statements for the end of November. The good thing, like pointed out, is the surplus right now is anticipated to be around 187,000, give or take whatever comes in through invoicing.
Yeah, and you will note that at the bottom of your agenda, at the asterisk, if you want a full financial statement, there is the website there to go to.
I do have one question about the surf project, or the marina pools, all that sort of thing.
On the surf spreadsheet,
Huh?
the surf.
The major
capital
surf
requirement.
project that we're
Yeah.
it's still all open, I know, and I know that we at one point talked about,
Are you looking at the capital sheet?
I'm looking at the capital sheet on page
Okay.
63.
Yeah.
63. And I noticed that we've still got PNW contingency and Sun Valley Management contingency, bless you. And a bunch of items that look like they're a little bit over. Are we gonna be covered by the contingency, and then are we gonna do anything about barn 6, or
Barn
just?
we can't do anything with barn 6 until you guys decide what you wanna do down here.
Yeah, got it.
That's-
Okay,
that's
well, I was
the-
just curious,
yeah.
so are we gonna keep all of these open, given that, or?
That would be up to you, the finance committee, if you wanna close those out and we can return those to funds, and go from
And
there.
remove that project
Right.
and set it aside?
Yeah.
That's kind of would be my thought, but you guys can do what you
We'll have the
want.
discussion, yeah.
Yeah, that should be
Okay,
probably a
right.
future discussion, just, okay.
Yeah, I was going to point out on the capital reporting spreadsheet, so the SURF one, page 63, like a couple of these, they look like they're over. I'll just talk about the first one. You see that negative 14,818, the yellow,
Mhm.
first column on the right? So those two projects, see how there's a D next to those two? Those two are one. So the only thing I'm doing here is, it's playground improvements, and then with playground improvements, you have payroll expenses, but I had set up I'm recording this and splitting out payroll in case I need to be able to come up with a number like that quickly. But those two are
It's not like
part
it
of
was
the,
over in any way.
No.
Okay.
those two
Just
are part of the
okay.
exact same project.
Got it.
So when you close them both out? and go
Oh, yeah,
away.
yeah, that's right, yeah.
Got it.
It's just an easy way for, if
Yeah.
we ever, if they wanna know how much time, energy, and effort we put into the project. we
right.
have it right
Then I
there.
have it captured, yeah. So those two Bs are, you add them together, and, so that is still under budget. Now, the As down below, all the SURF loans, so all of these, are counted as basically one, for cost purposes in terms of being over, under budget. So this last kind of bucket down here is 89,888 within budget of the SURF loan projects. So it's like, true, these items up above are over, but then you have the items down below, like the recommended contingencies, Sudden Valley management contingencies, those, with those buckets that haven't been spent into that.
Well, that's what I was asking, are those intended to be, do you anticipate that any of that will be spent, any of those contingencies?
Well, you'll have, if you add everything up, you have basically 90,000 left.
Okay, so in other words, that is, there's nothing else that will go in
Contingency
there.
basically, which would go back.
Okay.
Okay.
If we close this up today, I believe all the invoices are in there.
I'm only waiting on a few.
I believe they are done, more or less.
Yeah.
So you don't anticipate any more invoices going against us?
If it is, I do, but it's just a few of them, and it's not that much.
Insignificant.
Yeah,
You would still have, just easy number, you have 90,000 left. Just
Okay.
easy math, I mean.
So could you take this contingency amount also and pay off principal?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, we could always return that when you're
Yeah.
back to the bank
yeah.
Okay,
and close these projects out.
okay.
For sure.
That'd be worth another conversation about, the appropriateness of closing it out, or,
What to do with
why
funds.
would you leave it open? We'd like some answers on that before we do anything. Okay, and on roads?
I mean, from what little I've gone through that loan note, I haven't run across anything that says you cannot pay this back,
Well, no, I believe that was the big conversation before we, the contract was that there would be no
Ability to
penalty for
prepay against the
repayment.
principal.
Mhm.
Yeah, and on the roads page, very next page, page 64.
Okay.
What you see is there's one, the first one is the 30 Fairway. That was a project that was supposed to be completed this year, actually a 2-year phase, design and build. We had the opportunity, that 17,000 is what we took out of operations, as doing an operation thing, due to the fact that we had the crews here, we already had the design done, and you have on your road budget for 2020, 52,000, almost 52,000 to do the whole work. We were 53,872 for design and install.
Wow. So we saved $50,000?
Well, you saved, well, you had 36 and 50, almost 52,
sorry.
so
Okay,
you're
52.
88,
Okay.
you're 35.
35, okay. That's great.
Okay, and,
And by the way, so you see you're over on this line item with this 30 Fairway Lane drainage thing by 17,400. Now, the overage on that we're going to put against operations, that amount that I gave you for 187, that already builds that into it.
Yeah.
To absorb this
Yeah.
17,400.
And what's on here is only design, okay. But
Right.
we-
We have not,
But we've completed the project.
yes.
That's great.
Yep.
Okay.
And then down below, okay, so the only other real two things would be, you see in the culvert design, you have a couple that are over. Now, you have 1, 2, 3, 4 culvert projects, so these, all 4 of these culvert projects are kind of being treated as one in terms of their invoicing. Meaning, when Tyler gave us the invoicing for it, you know, there's certain like common cost, committee type costs that it's just, you know, each one gets like a quarter, you know, of that cost. So now, of course, I could have had him rework the invoice to make sure that each line item stayed within the budget, but we were just treating it for simplicity's sake as one. So when you count all 4 of those together, we're still within 32,654 being at the budget at this point. And then the last line down below, the last yellow line, 4479, it's the same sort of situation where these two things are treated as one to capture payroll costs. So you see CBC wages, tax and benefits line above supplies and outside contractor. So this is under, but it's within budget as well at this point.
Yeah, I'm looking up here, the second line, which is it says 2018 road surfacing, okay. Now, which actually didn't get done until 2019, and when we did it, it came in under approved price. And we will see how well it happens after this winter storm and everything, you know?
We will see how it holds up.
It's, you know, we'll see how it goes.
So just out of curiosity on the road, so when we do the budgets, we figure out what we're gonna cost, and it's gonna be out of pocket a lot, most of it contracted and stuff. And then when we go back and do it in-house,
We don't do any road work in-house, the culvert and design, but the culvert, or the CDC is the only stuff we do.
this 30 Fairway,
30 Fair, we didn't do in-house,
we didn't do anything.
didn't do nothing in-house, that was all,
I misunderstood, I thought you said you
what was for.
keeping track of some of our internal laborers.
This is not for that, no, 30 Fairway was, we had 36,000, set aside for design this year. We had our collections, I had a crew out here who was working, doing the
Oh,
roads.
contracting crew.
Contracted
Okay, I
crew.
misunderstood.
We had it out to bid, they came in the cheapest because they were already mobilized. The price came in at 53,000, the entire project.
I just misunderstood.
Yeah, and they had 52,000 budgeted just for the install this year, so it was.
Went ahead.
Yeah, I had to do my, try to save some money for roads going forward for next year.
Thanks.
Sounds like a plan. Okay, and anything else, or what?
Now in November, I just wondered, given the fact that we had a week of weather,
I was curious
I
myself.
was wondering, how did your new plan go? I saw Norm riding shotgun in the security vehicle a bunch of times last week, and what are you doing, and because you have a new system?
We did, I think, pretty well. The first storm we had, we were, it was a Sunday night, about 7:30, we rolled the crews in. I was down at the barn getting one going with Bruce and Brian Keith. I stayed with the crew to probably 10:30, 11 Sunday night. The crews rode back in first thing Monday morning, about 4 o'clock. We did a very good job that day, then Mother Nature said, we're only gonna get 1 inch of snow, 2 inches of max, and we got 8 to 12. Within 24 hours, about 95% of the community had been touched after that big storm. And we had everything pretty much cleaned up by the mid-morning of the next day. So, the plan that we had put in place with the little UTV, yes, it worked very, very, very good. We killed the poor machine. It wasn't ours, so the owner, brand new machine, Jacob can chime in. We kept that thing going together, bubble gum and MacGyver. We must have went through a bunch of welding rods and stuff, and his transmission was starting to slip, so It does, he had the right machine, but the wrong machine. They have two models. You have the Yugo, which he had, and then you have the Cadillac, which is heavy duty stuff. If we go forward and want to do that internally, we definitely get the heavy duty diesel unit that is designed to take a beating. This was just a fun machine, but it worked very well. The change in how we put material down, when we put it down, it helped a lot. But the big thing was UTV. He did K-28, he did all the condos, did all the roads that we couldn't get into, which allowed our bigger trucks to stay on the bigger roads.
And we got all of our supplies moved over from here into the spring structure so that everything stayed dry and was usable when we wanted it.
Now, we did have a couple trucks that slid off the road, our own vehicles. Having driven snow plows, I have put trucks in the ditch, so it is not an easy thing. If that rate starts sliding, there is nothing you can do, you just ride her out.
Yep. We will actually be doing a full after-action report review on Thursday. Part of that review process is the Deputy Director for Emergency Management, John Gargett, will be there with us to listen to what we're gonna do, and we're gonna probably beat ourselves up pretty good, but that's what these things are for. With that will be a written report submitted to the board when it's been completed. So that's going to be the process we're going to take forward. I'm going to tell you there will be some gap closures that have to be identified. There always are. So officially, snow planning for 2021 starts Thursday. So that's how that goes.
So what I'm hearing you say is you're predicting that we aren't gonna have.
Penny, you're exactly right. I didn't snow anymore.
Considering the snow arrived when the East Coast guy got here, it's all his fault.
Nobody remembers last February.
No, I did. It was right after he got
Yeah,
here.
it was right after. I vowed I would not go through another 6 weeks of not getting things done.
Yeah, but this is January. That's
That's
the
okay.
thing that worries me.
I'm okay.
Well,
There's no more snow.
but I,
Okay,
But
moving on.
I just want to say something else about that, because I think that, I mean, what I appreciate, Norm, about what you're saying and what you've done is that you took what happened last year and you said, we don't like that. That didn't work it didn't work for the community, but it also doesn't work for us, because it didn't work for the community. And so then you put forth a different plan this year. You've got to test it out. And what I'm hearing you say is, yep, it worked pretty good, but we know we can do better.
And that's
So I
part-
appreciate that, and I want to thank you for
Yeah,
that.
that's part of the emergency planning process anyway. It doesn't stop. I mean, if you look at it as a P, you have your reactive phase, which we had. Now we're going to be starting to go through the P and planning again. But we know there's things we can do better. There's equipment issues. We have communications things and stuff like that that have to be captured, revised, and move forward. But this is a size of Burlington community, population-wise, and so we need to understand that, work with it, and know that we've got to adapt and change. And in many cases, our chief improviser here is looking at ways to keep equipment on the road and
I'm
supplies.
surprised he even made it here.
Yeah.
All but one day. And I appreciate the finance committee support this fall because we had, we had a new sander and plow that was approved, was used in the storm, de-icing equipment, the sprung structure, having everything. So thank you for the support. But I mean, we changed a lot of stuff after that storm. Joe really went through with all of us. We changed even how we brought in parts and.
We're challenging ourselves continually, so.
Thank you for the support.
And the crew did a good job, yes. And I listened to the security station and monitored for ham radio, and I have to tell you, you guys are amazing. Everybody is professional, they are upbeat, they start at 3:30 in the morning gathering, and they don't go home till 6, 7 at night, so it's.
Some nights, we split the crew a little bit. There's some nights that I had guys still running 9:30, 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah, we had the little, what do you call it?
UTV.
Come by our house at 9:30 at night twice, around 9:30 at night. So. And we've never been plowed before, ever.
And they were, he was in one of the condos, he was in Ranch House condos at 1 a.m.
Mm.
Oh, gee. Can't tell you that, because you woke me up.
But we got to plot out.
I was there, whoa, this is cool.
Heard a lot of positive feedback from a lot of residents.
Yep.
Like I said, we're gonna beat ourselves up Thursday, that's what it's for.
Fine tuning it
Just
again.
thank you.
Yeah,
Well,
thanks to
Okay.
everybody.
Good job. Member questions and comments? Linda?
Okay, I want you all to go back to your first capital request for the cameras. And I believe on their bid, they said that they didn't include tax for the permitting. But the tax, you're probably gonna wanna add to that 5573 number. I believe, oh, here, hold on just a minute, I'm trying to scroll back here.
Oh, you're correct, yep.
I think so. I think the tax is missing. I think it's the whatever 5 points,
Yeah.
8.5 is on that 5573.
Mhm.
So you may want to just update that and get the
Okay.
committee to
The
go,
version.
yea, verily. The other thing I wanted to say is you're talking about Gary Porter,
Yes.
and yes, he was the 501c4. Do you know that back in 2008 and 2009, he was put on probation
Yes, I
for,
know that.
you do, from the California Board of Accountancy for 3 years. And that's why, I don't know if I'd go back and visit that again.
That's another concern that I had as far as his bid.
And the last question that I have is for Jacob, is what are you gonna do with all the old equipment? Is it just gonna get trash
That's a good
resold?
question, I like that.
No, yeah, as we will sell it on the, through means, Craigslist and different means like that because the value,
Because sometimes you can trade them in, but not always.
ours is, I approached that and no one was really, other than like $500 for everything. And it's worth way more than that. So we'll do like we do with old security vehicles and old maintenance trucks, we'll sell it on the open market and get as much as we can. Yes, I can.
And anything that we
Okay,
sell
no,
goes-
that's the only thing I wondered, and it's usually a question that gets asked, is what's gonna happen to it?
When we sell things like that, the funding typically goes back into
Yep.
CERF, right?
Yep.
I have a question?
Yeah, I want to know what we're gonna do with the old video equipment, if we get the new cameras.
The Costco papers,
We spent like, I think around $200 on it.
$200? How much, we only spent $200 on it?
yeah.
They like literally went to Costco and just bought like a 5-camera kind of thing, so, yeah.
I have no,
So it's gonna end up at $200.
I have no functional use
no.
for it for security association.
We could try to sell it.
You wanna make an offer?
Yeah.
Did you, before you contacted about bids for the auditor, were any other finance committee members or any board members alerted to that you were looking for a new auditor?
When what? Was the audit?
The auditor, replacing the auditor, did you contact any board members or other
I sent
finance committee members?
an email out to the entire board.
Thank you.
Will that be a topic at the board meeting? Will that be something that
I will report on what we discussed here,
Yeah.
and we'll report that we recommended that we not continue to use them, and I will explain why.
and let them know that we're looking and taking recommendations for
Yeah,
other
yes,
auditors we
that
should
we're-
look at, and if obviously
that
they
we-
have a
and I will
recommendation.
explain that we do have the 3 bids. I find that 2 of them are non-responsive, and we really need to find another, at least one more. Okay, anything else?
Ms. Bradley
Okay.
is correct that, about the whole tax thing
So
though.
how do I
Yes.
handle that?
So with tax at 8.5%, that's $473.70. So the total now, including tax, is $6,046.74.
Mandy, could you make sure that that number is put
Yes,
into the packet for the board?
yes, I will.
Yeah,
6,046.
74.
Thank you.
so do we need to?
Do we need to revote on that?
I think you
No,
will.
as far as I'm concerned, no. We have voted to approve it, and when
To
it
move
is
it forward,
presented on
just-
Thursday, I will say, and the finance committee has requested that we add tax to that also.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for catching that.
Okay. All right. With nothing further, we will close at 9:08.
Do we need a motion to close?
Say,
If you'd like to reopen, we can do it.
No, I just wanted to make sure that I.